If you are a Sagittarius and something pulled you here, pause. Whatever brought you to this moment wasn't chance. You didn't stumble. You were called. And if you feel it, that strange, unnameable weight you've been carrying, then what I'm about to tell you has been waiting for you longer than you know. This isn't another message about becoming stronger. This isn't about fighting harder or proving more. This is different. This is about the end of something. And before you move away, before you dismiss this as just another voice in the noise, let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly rested? Not sleep, not distraction, but rest. The kind where your mind stops running, where your chest stops tightening, where you don't have to be ready for the next blow. Because 2026 is carrying something for you that you haven't allowed yourself to believe in for a very long time. And it begins the moment you stop trying to control it. Stay, just for now. Let the noise fall away. Because what's unfolding isn't something you can force. It's something you have to feel. You still look the same to everyone else. That's the strange part, isn't it? On the outside, you're still the one who keeps moving. Still the one who smiles when things crack beneath the surface. Still the one people lean on when their own ground shakes. They see someone untouchable. Someone who doesn't break. But you know better. You know what it feels like when the room goes silent. When there's no one left to perform for. When the questions start circling, slow, relentless, without mercy. Am I even on the right path? Will I ever stop worrying? Will there ever be a moment when I can just breathe? These aren't the battles anyone else sees. They don't leave scars people can point to. They happen in the spaces between, in the middle of the night, in the second before you open your eyes in the morning, in the quiet moments when you realize you've been running so long, you forgot where you were trying to go. And here's the part no one talks about. The war isn't outside you anymore. It's not in your job, not in your relationships, not in the world around you. It's inside, in the beliefs you absorb without questioning, in the responsibilities you place on yourself because no one else would, in the terror that if you stop, even for a second, everything will collapse. You are Sagittarius. You were born to expand, to explore, to believe there is more to life than what can be measured or explained. But somewhere along the way, you became convinced that rest was a luxury you couldn't afford, that needing help was weakness, that if you weren't constantly moving forward, you were falling behind. And so you kept going, even when your soul begged you to stop. But 2026 didn't come here by accident. It isn't just another year ticking forward on a calendar. It's a threshold, a turning point, a moment when the rules you've been living by, rules you never chose, begin to dissolve. There is something trying to reach you, not loudly, not with force, but with a kind of certainty that doesn't need to shout. It has been supporting you all along, even when you couldn't see it, even when you thought you were alone in the dark, steering the ship with hands so tired they shook. You got used to being the only one at the helm. You tightened the sails against every wind. You convinced yourself that if you didn't hold it all together, no one would. But here's what you're about to discover. There are forces in your life that do not require your effort to exist. There are currents that have been waiting patiently, silently, for you to stop resisting them. And when you do, something shifts. Not all at once, not with fireworks, but softly, like the first crack of light before dawn, like the loosening of a knot you didn't realize you tied around your own chest. Can you feel it? That slight release, that quiet sense that maybe, just maybe, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. Take a breath, a real one, not the shallow kind you've been surviving on. Fill your lungs, and as you let it out, allow yourself to lower your defenses, just a fraction, not to become weak, but to become lighter. Because somewhere very close to you, there is a current, and it has been waiting for you to stop fighting it. A current carrying peace, carrying clarity, carrying gifts you have been chasing with your own hands for far too long. And as you begin to move with it instead of against it, you'll understand something that changes everything. The battle you thought you had to keep fighting is already over. It ended the moment you stopped believing it was yours to win alone. You were never meant for this kind of survival. You were never designed to drag yourself through days that feel identical, each one a little heavier than the last. That's not who you are. That's not why you're here. You came into this world with fire, not the kind that destroys, the kind that lights the way. You've always been the one who believed in what others couldn't see yet, the one who walked toward horizons no one else dared to approach, the one who refused to settle for less than what felt true. But somewhere along the way, the rhythm changed. It slowed, not because you wanted it to, but because you were pulled into a pattern you didn't even recognize at first. A pattern where you had to do everything yourself, protect everything yourself, prove over and over that you were strong enough not to fall apart halfway through. You kept walking, but each step started to feel like dragging weight through mud. You got so used to pushing forward that you forgot to ask yourself if you were okay. Even when your soul was screaming for rest, you ignored it because stopping felt like failure, and failure felt like the end. There are fears you've never said out loud, fears that live in the back of your mind like shadows you can't shake. The fear of not having enough, the fear of not being enough, the fear that one day you'll look back and realize you spent your whole life on the wrong road, the fear that all this effort, all this striving will lead to nothing. None of this is loud, none of it dramatic, but it drains you day by day, moment by moment, until you wake up one morning with a weight pressing on your chest, and you can't remember the last time you felt light. Sagittarius, listen to me. You may have become the strong one, the guide, the support, but you forgot something critical. Even the strongest person sometimes needs to be held. Even the one who always looks ahead doesn't need to have all the answers. This battle, no matter how long you've carried it, was never meant to be yours alone. It is not a test of your toughness. It is not proof of your worth. It is simply a sign that you've been walking too long without rest, trying too hard, believing that strength only comes from your own hands. And that belief is about to be shattered, gently, but completely. You are not failing because you feel tired. You are not weak because you feel uncertain. Those feelings are not proof that you're on the wrong path. They are signals. Signals that the way you've been moving through life is ready to change. Imagine, just for a moment, that you don't need to prove anything. Not to anyone. Not even to yourself. You don't need to run faster. You don't need to push harder. You can just stand here, in this exact moment, and listen to your own heartbeat. Beneath all the worry, beneath all the fear, there's a part of you that hasn't forgotten. A part that still knows how to trust. A part that remembers life was never supposed to be a constant battle. And as you begin to notice this, very softly, very gently, a different question rises. Not, how can I try harder? But, what if I stop holding myself so tightly? That question doesn't come to weaken you. It comes to open a door to another way forward, a way where you no longer have to walk alone. There are moments in life when the greatest courage isn't continuing to fight. It's admitting you don't have to fight in the same way anymore. And as that realization takes root, something shifts inside you. It feels as if someone has placed a hand on your shoulder, not to push you, not to demand anything, but to remind you you can lower your weapons now, not because you lost, but because you've traveled far enough to step into something different, a way of living where the weight no longer rests entirely on you. And that's when you feel it, the first breath of relief, the first moment of quiet that doesn't feel like the calm before another storm. Just stillness, real stillness, the kind that tells you you are allowed to rest now. The year 2026 is not like the others. It carries something you can't see yet, but you can feel it, like a shift in the air before rain, like the first light slipping under the door before you even open your eyes. This is a turning point, not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because from here on, you no longer have to hold the sword. You no longer have to be ready for the next attack. You no longer have to brace yourself against the world. You've been stretched so tight for so long, like a bow drawn back, ready to fire, never allowed to release. You believe that if you relaxed, even a little, everything would fall apart. But here's the truth you're about to touch. You were never meant to live your entire life in a state of battle. The message for Sagittarius right now is so clear it barely needs explanation. Letting go of control is not giving up. Letting go is not surrender. Letting go is placing the battle back into the hands of the one who knows the destination better than you do, who knows the path better than you do, who understands timing in ways you never could. Maybe it's been so long since you allowed yourself to believe this. You believe in action, in effort, in willpower. You believe that if you stay persistent enough, everything will work out. And yes, that belief has carried you far, but it has also exhausted you, because you've been carrying a role that was never meant to be carried by human strength alone. There are doors that do not open through force. There are knots that cannot be loosened through tension. And when you stop trying to bend everything to your own will, something very different begins to happen. It feels like the current you were fighting against suddenly softens, like invisible walls that blocked your way quietly step aside. The door of destiny begins to open, not with noise, but with a deep sensation inside you, the feeling of exhaling after holding your breath for far too long. Divine guidance doesn't come to take away your freedom. It comes to return you to your true nature. You are Sagittarius, the soul of the journey, of belief, of expansion. When you allow a greater force to lead, you don't lose direction. The path becomes clearer than ever, not through anxiety, but through peace. Picture someone who has walked to the desert for miles, carrying a map, carrying a compass, but still doubting every step. And then, in a quiet moment, they lift their eyes, and they realize the night sky has been guiding them all along. The stars were always there, but only when they stop staring at the ground did the sky reveal itself. You are the same. When you stop controlling every detail, when you stop blaming yourself for not being fast enough, far enough, you begin to notice that you're being guided by a different rhythm, the rhythm of trust, the rhythm of knowing that not everything needs your force to be handled. At first, this might confuse you. It might feel like stepping into a space that is both familiar and unfamiliar. There's no clash of swords anymore, no pressure to prove yourself, only silence, but not emptiness. It is a silence full of potential, where what truly belongs to you begins to find you. And as you stay in the state long enough, you realize something deeply reassuring. You have not been abandoned in this process. On the contrary, you are being held, supported, gently guided along a path you might never have seen if you relied on your own strength alone. There is no need to rush, no need to prove anything. Just continue walking, with a new kind of trust quietly forming in your heart, knowing that from here on, you no longer need to fight as before, because a greater hand is silently guiding you back to where you truly belong. And then, very naturally, like your eyes adjusting to light after a long stretch in the dark, you begin to realize something important about yourself. Sagittarius, you were never born to be trapped in survival mode. You didn't come into this world just to make ends meet, to endure, to push yourself through one more day of existence. Inside you, there has always been another fire, a fire that refuses to shrink, a fire that refuses to curl inward out of fear. You were born to be a bearer of light, a pathfinder, the one who walks ahead, not because you have every answer, but because you dare to believe that a path exists even before anyone else can see it. And yet, there were moments when you forgot that role, not because you were weak, but because you have been carrying the weight of doing everything on your own for far too long. The year 2026 arrives like an invitation, never forceful, never demanding, an invitation reminding you that it is time to shift roles, not to change who you are, but to change how you carry yourself through this life. From being the one who believes they must handle everything alone, protect everything alone, carry everything alone, to becoming someone who trusts in divine timing, who understands that not everything requires your hands to intervene. At first, this transition may feel unfamiliar, like standing in a quiet space that was once filled with the noise of plans, worries, and endless to-do lists. You may wonder, if I am not in control, what will happen? But within that quiet space, you begin to hear something different, softer, deeper, more real, when you stop resisting the current. Life begins to arrange itself in ways that are hard to explain, but impossible to deny once you experience them. Opportunities appear without urgency. Money loosens its grip on fear. People come into your life not to test your endurance, but to walk beside you. And direction, the very thing that once troubled you the most, suddenly becomes clearer, not because you chased it, but because you recognize it when it arrived. Sagittarius, this is not a fairy tale miracle where everything becomes perfect overnight. This is a very human miracle, a very real one. The miracle of no longer living in constant inner war. The miracle of finally lowering the weapons you've held for so long that you forgot what it feels like to let your hands relax. No more war. No more proving. No more running faster than fear. Only expansion, true to your nature. An expansion that is not loud, not showy, but steady, grounded. You begin to move to a different rhythm now. Not the rhythm of survival, but the rhythm of trust. And within this new rhythm, you realize something quietly powerful. The light you carry was never extinguished. It was simply waiting for you to stop forcing yourself into a role that no longer fits, to stop becoming someone else, so it could shine naturally again. When you trust in guidance, you do not lose freedom. You reclaim it at a deeper level, where you are no longer ruled by the fear of loss. There is a quiet beauty in this moment. The beauty of someone who was once a warrior, now learning to walk as someone being guided, not weaker, not smaller, but wiser, lighter, and far more profound. Notice how something inside you is beginning to soften now, like water after strong wind, like the sky after a long night of clouds. You don't need to name it, just feel it, because within this calm, a new way of living is slowly taking shape. A way of living where you no longer fight to be worthy, but are gently invited into the expansion that has been waiting for you all along. And as you walk in this new rhythm long enough, when your shoulders finally soften, when your breath is no longer rushed, you begin to understand something very different about abundance. Sagittarius, the abundance your soul has been searching for has never come from pressure. It has never grown in moments of forcing, of bracing, of racing against time or competing with anyone else. Your abundance has always been tied to the feeling of being fully yourself, whole, unguarded, at ease in your own skin. There may have been a time when you believed that doing more, sacrificing more, enduring more was the only way life would reward you fairly. But the farther you went, the more tired you became, not because you lacked strength, but because that road was never aligned with the rhythm of your heart. The heart of Sagittarius does not beat to the sound of a whip. It beats to meaning, to belief, to the quiet knowing that you are moving in the right direction. When you begin living at your true frequency, a subtle shift takes place. You no longer wake up with financial worry pressing on your mind, not because money suddenly falls from the sky, but because your relationship with money starts healing at the root. You stop seeing it as a threat. You stop letting it define your worth. Instead, you begin to feel it as a flow of energy, coming and going, in harmony, without force. The year 2026 is not asking you to try harder. It does not require you to prove anything anymore. It does not demand that you run faster than others or carry more weight to be recognized. This is the year you are invited to live lighter, but deeper, to trust more, without becoming blind, to open wider, while remaining grounded within yourself. When you stop fighting, the path reveals itself naturally, not as a detailed map, with every turn already drawn, but as a quiet clarity inside, a knowing of where your next step belongs. You stop feeling lost in your choices. You stop fearing that you will choose wrong, because when you trust guidance, you understand that even detours have meaning. Even pauses are part of the journey. The rewards that arrive now do not require struggle. They do not come with tension or the urge to cling in fear of loss. They arrive as gentle answers from life, when you stop resisting it. An opportunity at the right moment, a person appearing at the right time, a door opening, not because you pounded on it in anxiety, but because you stood there in quiet trust. Sagittarius, there is a deep beauty in allowing yourself to receive. Not receiving because you have suffered enough, but because you are ready to believe you deserve ease, ready to believe that life does not need to be hard to be real, ready to believe that abundance is not something to fight for, but something that finds you when you are standing in the right place. within yourself. When God takes over, your role is no longer control every small detail. Your role is to listen, to notice the subtle signs, to walk forward with an open heart. You do not need to understand everything immediately. You only need to stop resisting when goodness knocks at your door. And within that permission, very gently, you feel your inner world expand, as if there is more space now, for joy, for gratitude, for dreams once postponed. There is no longer the need to defend yourself, no fear that if you relax, everything will disappear. Instead, you realize that it is precisely when you stop fighting that life finally has room to give you what has been holding back all along. Let this moment sink into you. No rush, no need to name it. Just feel the fullness. Soft, warm, real. Because when you move through life from this place, you are not only receiving abundance for yourself, you are learning how to live in harmony with life itself. And within that harmony, something very deep begins to close, making space for a rare sense of peace, the kind you have been searching for through a very long journey. And as that fullness settles within you, as the feeling of safety begins to stand more firmly than worry ever did, there is something important that needs to be spoken now, not as a command, but as a gentle reminder meant only for you. Sagittarius, let this sink in, not through your mind, but through your breath itself. The battle is over, not because you became weaker, but because you no longer need to fight. You have not been abandoned. Even in the seasons when you felt alone in a world that felt far too wide, even in the nights when you wondered why you had to carry so much, the truth is, there was never a single moment when you were truly let go. Some presences are quiet. They do not announce themselves. They do not demand attention. Yet they're always there, watching each step you take, supporting you even when you don't realize it. And most importantly, you are being guided, not in a way that takes away your choices, but in a way that opens choices you could not see before. This guidance does not force belief. It does not rush you. It simply invites you to listen more deeply, to trust more slowly, but to trust from a place that is far more grounded than ever before. The year 2026 is a year you walk lighter, not because life suddenly holds no challenges, but because fear no longer follows every step you take. You trust more, not because you finally have enough proof, but because you have lived long enough to understand that not everything needs to be controlled in order to be safe. And you live more truthfully than ever, no longer trying to become who you think the world expects, but returning to who you have always been. There is no more proving, no more explaining why you chose this path, no more bracing yourself just to deserve peace. The layers of armor that once helped you survive can now be set down. You no longer need them, because you are no longer at war. There is a quiet beauty in this moment, the beauty of someone who once walked through storms, now standing still, and realizing the sky is cleared, not because the storms never existed, but because they have completed their purpose. They taught you endurance. They taught you faith. They taught you the value of not giving up, and now they are free to pass. Sagittarius, allow yourself to believe that you no longer have to fight alone. What needed to be proven is complete. What needed to be learned is enough. What comes next does not ask you to try harder. It invites you into a different way of living, a way of living where the future is no longer viewed through anxiety, but through gentle curiosity. God is taking over, not to do everything for you, but so you no longer have to carry the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. From here on, some things will come more easily. Some doors will open without you having to force them. Some answers will appear when you stop asking from fear. And from this moment forward, abundance is no longer a distant destination. It begins in how you walk, in how you see life, in how you allow yourself to receive goodness without guilt. Abundance begins when you believe you are allowed to live fully, both outwardly and within. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let your body remember this feeling. The feeling of no longer bracing, the feeling of being guided, the feeling of safety, rare, but deeply real. You do not need to show it to anyone. Just carry it with you, in small choices, in ordinary days. In each moment you choose trust over fear. Sagittarius, the battle has ended, not with victory horns, but with profound stillness. And within that stillness, another chapter of life is quietly opening, not loud, not dramatic, but strong enough to carry you forward, with a lighter heart, clearer eyes, and the knowing that from here on, you no longer walk alone. There's something you need to understand now, something that will change the way you see the road ahead, not just for the next few weeks or months, but for the rest of your life. You spent so much time believing that you had to earn your place, that you had to justify your existence through effort, through achievement, through constant motion. You thought that if you stopped, you would become invisible, forgotten, left behind, but that was never true. You were never invisible. You were never forgotten. And the idea that you had to earn your right to be here, that was a lie you absorbed from a world that measures worth in productivity, in output, in how much you can give before you collapse. 2026 is the year that lie begins to unravel, completely, irreversibly, because you are about to discover something that will shake the foundation of everything you believed about yourself. You are loved, not for what you do, not for what you accomplish, not for how strong you appear or how much you carry. You are loved simply because you exist. And when that truth finally lands, not in your mind, but in your bones, everything changes. You stop performing. You stop proving. You stop running on a treadmill that was never going to take you anywhere but exhaustion. And in that stopping, you find something you've been searching for your entire life. Permission to be human. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to feel without judgment. Permission to need without shame. Permission to receive without earning. This is not weakness. This is the deepest strength you will ever know, because it takes far more courage to let yourself be held than it does to keep fighting alone. And Sagittarius, you are being held right now, in this exact moment, even if you can't see it, even if you can't explain it. You are being held by something far greater than fear, far greater than doubt, far greater than the voice in your head that tells you you're not enough. There is a shift happening inside you. You may not have words for it yet, but you can feel it, like something loosening, like something opening, like a door you didn't even know was locked, suddenly swinging wide. And on the other side of that door is a version of your life you've only glimpsed in dreams. A version where you wake up without dread, where you move through your days without constantly bracing for the next hit, where you trust that what is meant for you will find you, and what is not meant for you will pass by without taking pieces of you with it. This is not fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is what becomes possible when you stop trying to force life to bend to your will, when you stop believing that control is the only thing keeping you safe. Because here's what you're about to learn. The tighter you hold on, the more you lose. The more you try to control, the more chaos you create. And the moment you release your grip, even just a little, life begins to flow in ways you could never have orchestrated on your own. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. People appear who speak to the exact part of you that needed to be seen. Opportunities arrive that feel less like work and more like coming home. Money moves with less friction. Time expands. Worry shrinks. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you stopped making it harder. You stopped fighting the current. You stopped resisting the flow. You stopped believing that your worth was tied to how much you could endure. And in that surrender, not the kind that gives up, but the kind that finally lets go, you discover something astonishing. You were never alone. You were never unsupported. You were never abandoned. You were always being guided. You just couldn't hear it over the noise of your own striving. Listen carefully now, because what I'm about to tell you is not something you can force. It's something you can only allow. There's a grace moving through your life right now. A grace that does not ask you to be perfect. A grace that does not require you to have all the answers. A grace that meets you exactly where you are. Tired, confused, uncertain. And it says, that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to trust. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that the path you're on, even if it doesn't make sense yet, is leading you somewhere worth going. Trust that the struggles you face were not punishments. They were preparation. Because you are being prepared for something, Sagittarius. Something that requires you to be soft as much as strong. Something that requires you to be open as much as certain. Something that requires you to believe in what you cannot yet see. And that something is already on its way to you, not because you earned it, not because you fought hard enough, but because it was always meant to be yours. You just had to become ready to receive it. And readiness doesn't come from doing more. It comes from releasing the belief that you have to do it all yourself. So here's what I need you to understand, deeply and completely. From this moment forward, you are not walking alone. You are not carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You are not responsible for holding everything together. There's a force moving with you, through you, for you, and it is stronger than any fear you've ever felt, wiser than any doubt you've ever carried, more certain than any confusion you've ever faced, and it is guiding you, not toward what you think you want, but toward what you actually need, toward what will make you whole, toward what will allow you to finally exhale and say, yes, this is what I was searching for. You don't have to see the entire path. You don't have to understand every step. You just have to take the next one, and then the next, and then the next, with trust, with openness, with the quiet knowing that you are being led. And as you do, you will begin to notice something miraculous. The life you've been chasing starts chasing you. The peace you've been seeking starts finding you. The love you've been craving starts filling you from the inside out. Not because you finally did everything right, but because you finally stopped doing everything alone. Sagittarius, the battle is over. The war is done. The fight is finished. And what comes next is not another test. It's not another trial. It's not another proving ground. What comes next is rest. Deep soul-level rest. The kind that doesn't just refresh your body, but restores your spirit. The kind that reminds you who you were before the world told you who you had to be. What comes next is peace. Not the fragile kind that depends on everything going right, but the unshakable kind that remains steady even when things fall apart. What comes next is joy. Real joy. The kind that bubbles up from somewhere deep inside you. The kind that doesn't need a reason. The kind that exists simply because you are alive and you are here and you are loved. This is your inheritance, Sagittarius. This is what 2026 is handing you, not as a reward, but as a return to who you've always been beneath the armor, beneath the fear, beneath the striving. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you've always been. And that person is free. That person is whole. That person is loved beyond measure. So take a breath, a deep one, and let it out slowly. Feel the weight falling away. Feel the tension releasing. Feel the walls coming down. You don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to prove anymore. You don't have to carry anymore. You are allowed to rest now. You are allowed to receive now. You are allowed to live now, not in some distant future. Not after you've accomplished one more thing. Not after you've proven yourself one more time. Now, right now, in this exact moment, the battle is over, and the life you've been waiting for is already here, waiting for you to stop fighting long enough to notice it. So stop just for a moment and notice, because this right here, right now, this is the beginning of everything you've been searching for. And it doesn't require anything from you except one thing: the courage to finally let go,